Right, I think I've finally got the volume thing sorted out. I found a wee program to add to the computer to try and boost the volume, so hopefully this is all working out. Let's pop this up just in case. Anyway, so basically I'm just going to sit and go through the various observations that I did, which started on the end of September after I got a P900. So basically there was 4 weekends that I went out and got different observations. The first one was Blackpool, so I'll start there. And the main point of this is just to get it all together in one place, go over it all. There's a couple of wee bits of detail that hopefully I can add in, nothing too crazy. And this way everything's, you know, I sat and went through all this stuff week after week over at Ged, which was kind of him to let me do that, so cheers for that, Ged. But I was supposed to then try and organise each set of observations and get them up on my own channel and link the photographs and stuff like that. But for various different reasons I basically didn't I haven't done it, and I've kind of stepped away from some of this stuff for a wee while, so I'm just kind of getting back to it, putting everything together. And I know that, you know, certain people will have seen so much of this over in Jed's, but not everybody will have seen it. So it might be handy for anybody that hasn't seen any of this stuff. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Wow. Single clicks are apparently double clicks now. Stop pissing around. Right. So basically the first observation was done at Blackpool. And I'll just drag that up first. Right, so what I did was I drove down to Blackpool just pretty much on a whim. There was no preparation for that. I just decided to do it like literally that morning and drove down there. The hope had been originally to do Blackpool and Hoylake, and I did go to Hoylake, but I never got there till night time, so it didn't really work out too well for the Hoylake side of things. But when I was at Blackpool during the day, what I did was I get set up down here at the mirror ball, and I'll just zoom right in on Google Earth and demonstrate where I was. So there's a ramp here. I'm sorry, looking at the wrong bit. Jesus, sorry. There's a ramp here, and initially I kind of set the camera up just here and was looking over the gate and over that wall, sort of in this direction roughly. And then a wee bit later on, I moved over here. I got pictures of the mirror ball itself, and then I set up just at the top of the steps here, right in front of the mirror ball. Took some shots out here towards a gas rig, which you'll see in a minute, and took a look down this way as well, which was in the line of sight of a platform and another set, a wind farm. Let me just get that, it's further away than I thought. So it was hard to, you can't find these things on Google Earth, but this is the rough location of where the platform is, and I'll be able to show you in a minute where the wind farm is located on this site that I found, that shows you that, you know, that the locations of wind farms and their power output and stuff like that. So main thing is I was set up here, and for the most part I was looking out towards some wind farms that are kind of over this way. They're kind of out in the sea, let's see, kind of spread out from south to Barrow. So I'll just show you that on the website anyway. Oh, wrong thing. Right, so this is the Crown Estate website, and it's got the map for these wind farms. So you can see if I flick between these, you know, this is Barrow and this is the coastline where Blackpool is. I'll just switch back to that so you can see that's the same area. Right, so it's got the map of the wind farms. As I say, when I was looking at sort of diagonally across the water and seeing all these turbines, so this is obviously the map. So it's a bit of a weird wee site, but if you zoom in, it starts to fill out the map. I'll just put this straight up. And on the side here, it gives you information on the site. If you get close in enough, it tells you information about it. So as you can see, you hover over it, Barrow, and it tells you the energy output and who owns it. It's a weird setup, right? So there, once you get into it and click on it, it tells you the type of turbine. So what I've got here is I took a couple of quick clips of documents and things that I found. So this is the Vestas V90 turbines that are situated here. And I just took a quick look at this data just to get information on the height of the different turbines. So the hub height for the V90s is 80 metres according to the manufacturer. So where are we? Too many windows. So that's the V90, and then this wee site is awkward as hell to operate. If I can get it to click into this. Right, so then with this site you've got the Siemens SWT 3.6 120. So I've got a wee bit of, that's the other ones, right? So this is you can see there, that's the document for these. So then hub height 90 metres, so that's basically the same again, pretty much. Let me just flick between. So 80 metres for one, 90 metres for the other, and then just to round it off, if I can get this to work. Oops, a bit too far. When you go to the south, you've got Burble Bank and Burble Bank Extension. These seem to be the ones that are just off the, like in the Liverpool Bay area, and these are the ones that once we're going through the photographs in a minute, I'll point them out. They're surrounding well, in the same general direction, I should say, of another platform that I saw out in the sea. Excuse me. And if I can just get zoomed in on that, I'll show you that these are made. This wind farm is made up of like these really massive turbines. Ah, come on. Really an awkward site. It just doesn't do what you think it's going to do. That's not doing it. Hey, finally, right, so the Burble Bank, it's filled with Vestas V164, 8 milliwatts or whatever, or megawatts. So this is the final turbine type, which is this is the document for that here. So hub height on these 105 metres, although in this document they're saying they've got a prototype up to 140 metres. So these are even higher again, and the tip height with the blade included is 187 metres. So these things are huge. Right, so now that we've got an idea what the different turbines are, I'll just have a quick look at the actual photographs and it all makes sense. So basically, the main thing that you see if you're standing at the waterfront at Blackpool is these wind farms. And it's one of the reasons that I find it odd that Anthony Riley, who is always round about this area, effectively is, in a sense, is local to the area, and he's always doing observations of Blackpool and stuff like that. He never goes out here and gets pictures of this stuff, but anyway. Now, when I was in Ged's, I selected a few photos and just showed a few. I'm just going to literally click on everything here, go through it, but I'll skip quickly through and try and get through all this stuff. How you doing, Paul? You can tell I'm not used to the live streaming. Happy New Year, mate. So, some of the videos are going to be crap quality, but I'm trying not to miss anything out here. This was just the first time I spotted anything at the water, and it's actually looking up towards Barrow. Just skip through because it's not really particularly great, it's just looking around. Right, so this was the zoomed right back out. You can see that I'm on the section of the promenade I pointed out next to the mirror ball, and just having a general scan around to show where I am down at Blackpool. It's no too great that anyway. So next to, so I started to spot the wind farms out in the water and start to video them and photograph them. So let's say these things that you're looking at, there'll be better pictures than that in a minute, but what you're looking at is obviously quite a big wind farm, and based on the map there's like multiple wind farms one behind the other. So there's a big array of turbines, and this video is a crap one, but as I say, I'm trying to just include everything, whether it's crap or no. Forget that shite. Anyway, bit better focus now. So these are, as I say, these are either, depending on which model, the first two, it's either 80 or 90 for the hub height, 80 or 90 metres for the hub height. You can see it's, there's just loads of these things out in the water. I'll just let the video run a minute. You can obviously see there's a wee bit of miraging going on, and you're getting that kind of mirror effect low down, and you can see this particularly with the blades of the ones that are at the rear. Now obviously these are all meant to be the same height, and they should be mostly sort of evenly spaced from each other. So if I pause it for a second, you can see that this, in terms of how angular size would work, that you would expect them to, obviously the whole thing to be visible and for it to shrink in angular size as it goes further and further away, and you would have a gradual slope down from the top end. But you can see that the hubs of these things are right down at, the bases, and in some cases there's only blades visible. More visible in some of the photographs than that. Right, at this point I tried to follow this boat and it's a waste of time. The tripod I was using at the time, it's a nightmare to control, so just go skip past that. Get to some of the better videos. So this is a lot clearer. You can see what's happening here. Now obviously when it gets to roughly this point, it's hitting some kind of temperature inversion or whatever. So the light's getting bent, but that doesn't account for everything above it, obviously. So when you look at the overall layout and consider the height of them, especially if you include the blade height, they're going, plus 100 metres high, these things. And you've got hubs and blades that are down into that area here near the temperature inversion area, but it doesn't account for this whole length of the turbine, including all the blades and everything, being as low down as it is. You can't, you can't explain that away with a wee bit of mirroring. So you get the idea here. I'll just skip through a bit. So at the time, the P900 was totally brand new to me as well, and the whole focusing thing was an issue and everything. So some of the videos are crap, some of the photos are blurry, that kind of thing, but it's enough to give you the idea. Plus it looks cool. See, it's zoomed right in it, it's no fully in focus unfortunately, so I'll skip past some of this. Hey, that's weird. Seems to have only been playing videos. That's fucking weird. How you doing, Jed? Happy New Year to you too, mate. I seen you had a hangout for the Hogmanay and all the bells and all that stuff, but I was too busy watching Metallica to get involved with that stuff. I'll check it out later. Right, so this is a picture that was taken wide angle. You can see the ramp that I was pointing out initially on Google Earth to show where I was set up with the camera and the general direction I'm looking at onto the water to see the turbines. And just zooming in piece by piece to show where it's located. Don't think we need the video. So some of these things, I was trying to point them out when I was on Jed's and talking about it all. You know, I think anytime you've got these kind of observations, if you've got anything in the foreground to contrast the stuff in the background, it helps. But it doesn't necessarily need to be the same kind of object. It's just, if you know how perspective ought to work and how the angles ought to work with something as it decreases in size as it goes into the distance, you should be able to spot the problem when you've got something like this in the foreground, and how these kind of things, which are much taller, are somehow sitting on the horizon as they hit the background. Because what should be is it should just be, they should look a bit smaller in overall size, but you should be able to see them all. I'll just flick through these. As I say, don't want to spend all night going on about it. Just want to make sure it's all up there for everybody to see. So this is looking the other way, down towards the south, towards the other bit, and these are the big massive Vestas V164s that I was talking about, and you can just tell by looking at the length of the blades on these things. They're absolutely huge. As I say, according to the specs, when you take into account the blade length, they're almost 200 meters high. They're absolutely huge, and despite that, you can see that even here the blades are dipping in. There's a wee bit of this the same effect going on, but it's to a lesser extent, and these big massive blades are getting caught up in that there. So you're obviously not seeing the full height of these turbines. That's back to the other ones. Just a nice wide crop and everything. I love the way these things sit so low in the background. And you consider the fact that there must be hundreds of them out there. And I think it's maybe worth pointing out as well, I forgot to mention about the distances. When you measure it up on Google Earth, these are about I think they were about 22 miles or something like that out from the direction that we was looking. And obviously you could already see what's happening with these. And you get people who are claiming to do observations that are 50 and 100 miles away and be able to see everything. It's just ridiculous. There's just no way you would be able to see that far. Anyway, I'll just flick through it again. As long as they all get a wee bit of screen time, it means they can always be referenced later on. If anybody's wanting to screenshot anything or take a wee bit of the video or something like that to show it as an observation, anybody's welcome, really, to use it or to talk about it or whatever they want to do, just so it's up there. And apologies if I'm ignoring the chat, guys. I've not got a good setup for this, I'm crap at it, I don't usually do it. So obviously I took quite a lot of photos. As I say, when I went onto Ged's I cut it all down to less than this, but I just want to make sure everything's up there. And shots like this just help again to establish, you know, the point of view that you're getting, so that anybody wants to go to Blackpool and repeat this stuff, they can do it. You know, as I say, there's no reason why Anthony Riley can't do it. It's right on his doorstep, and he's always going on about the place. But for some reason, this big, you know, massive place to observe is just no anywhere in his list. All right, Tim, how you doing? And hello, Nathan. It's Tim. It's interesting that, I mean, when you look at it, let me just go back, right, and I'll get some up on screen. Just flicked back a few. That's probably a good one actually in a minute. There isn't a huge difference in the angular size from, like, say, from this one to this one. And then when you look at the ones that are down on the horizon, there isn't a massive difference in angular size either. That's probably a good point there to see, like, a few of them in a more direct row. And there isn't a huge difference in angular size, and yet there's so much more missing. So aye, it's a good point. I would actually quite like to... you know, I'd like to try and get better information on the turbines and you know, how the wind farm itself is laid out, how far apart each one is. But when I tried to find the information before, it was really difficult to find it. So the best I've been able to really get is just the general name and location and being able to identify the types of turbine, which then gives me some stats on the heights and stuff like that. But no, the actual plan, the footprint of the wind farm, unfortunately, which would be nice. If you're interested in the spec stuff, obviously you can just check back on it later, but in summary, these ones in the photograph, depending on which model it is, are either 80 or 90 metres to the hub. And then the bigger ones, the Vestas V164s, they are I think it was 120 to the hub on the minimum size version that they do, and then when you include the blade size, it's just shy of 200 metres, so pretty damn big. So so the turbines were the main thing that I was looking at. Alright, Anthony. The turbines were the main thing I was looking at. And then the other thing that's out in that direction is, let me see, just go back, is this rig, which is called CPC1. Actually, wait a minute, I'll just quickly show you this other one. I'll just put that up. So this is looking the other way. This is towards the kind of south or southwest, to these bigger. This is where the Burbo Bank the big massive turbines are located, and there's a platform there which is called Lennox platform. And just for a kind of comparison, as I say, when you're looking at that direction, you can see a wee bit of this miraging effect going just at the base of the supports, but this is where the bigger turbines are located that I was pointing out a minute ago, with the kind of blades sweeping almost into the water as it looks in the photograph. I tried to get information on the platform, and including emailing the people that manufactured it, but I couldn't get any information on the actual height of this thing or anything, but it's really the most important one anyway. So this thing here, this is looking back out more from Blackpool, almost straight out, and it's again about 22 miles out. You can look it up. It's a gas rig called CPC1, and this is kind of going backwards, but this is again the view from where I was standing to look at. I'm basically standing right in front of the mirror ball at the top of the steps, looking out towards this thing, and then zooming in, and you can't see all it obviously. What I'll do is I'll show you. There's a wee bit of the only bit of documentation I could find to help me try and identify any dimensions on it was this information on the helideck, which tells you that the height of the installation is 397 feet, so it's just shy of 400 feet. So give or take, depending on whether they're talking about the height of the helideck here or if they're talking about the overall height, including the cranes, is hard to say. But there's at least 300 to 400 worth of feet to play with there, and you can see the shape of it, and then I'll just zoom in a bit, sorry. So you can see the overall way it's built, and then compare that to what you're actually seeing out in the water. Oops. So there's definitely a lot being hidden there. And I say this is only 20 odd miles out into the sea. Let me just check. How he's getting on in chat. Paul, I did have a look around for information on all this stuff a while back, and it was really difficult to find stuff. I was contacting the people who had owned the platforms, and then I had information that I'd managed to find on somebody that owned it, and when I contacted them, they told me they didn't own it anymore, and they put me in contact with the people that did own it. So I contacted them, and they never got in touch with me. So then I went looking around again, and I managed to find the original manufacturer who built the thing, the marine contractor. And I emailed them and they never responded to me, so it's been difficult to get information, Anyway, can I keep keeping an eye on chat, guys? Sorry, I've no set up well for this. I'm shit at it. Anyway, so that's CPC1 and the turbines. Just a quick reminder. So this is me based in at the mirror ball, and according to the wind farm map, the wind farm kind of extends, the main bulk of it all extends round about here, coming down from the tip of Barrow sort of thing, and the platform's somewhere out here. This was an estimated location for it based on GPS coordinates that were in that document that I just showed you a minute ago. And let me just double check that. 22 miles, so it's 22 miles out to the platform. CPC1. So that was Blackpool. I'll try and get moving on with this stuff. And just for anybody that missed it, if anybody's wanting to see this, wind farm plot, it's the Crown Estate. Then it's a bit awkward, but you need to zoom into it, and once you're zoomed in, if you click on it, it will show you on the right the energy output and the type of excuse me, the type of turbine that's based in that particular plot. I'll just get rid of that. Right, so moving on. The next week, back up my way, I went to a place called Porton-Cross, and I'll just get that on Google Earth first. Oh, sorry. Ugh, it's fucking no moving. Right, so we're up here. So this is Porton-Cross, and what I've done this day is I've parked in here at the car park, walked out over this path and kind of out onto the rocks. Now, I couldn't remember exactly where I stood on the rocks, and I stood at one place, then moved a wee bit to have a slightly better vantage point. After the fact, after talking to Ged and stuff like that, I looked up the GPS on the P900 and it was plotting me here, but it's somewhere around about here, and I took a photograph of this building behind us just to verify where I was standing. And then when you look at the photograph, sometimes the rocks are in the foreground. Basically, I'll flick through these and I'll just explain what's happening as we go. So obviously these are, you can see that, you know, the rocks round about me and the water level and stuff like that. I think, if I remember right, I started off taking pictures here and then I kind of walked round and moved out to this bit, or, do you know what, actually no, I think it was up here behind these ones, because it was offering me a wee bit of wind protection because the tripod is crap in the wind. So anyway, just some general pictures at the beginning, just looking around and taking snapshots and stuff. And following some of the boats that were kicking about. I was actually just there to get a wee bit of an idea of the layout, so that's why I was taking some random photographs at first. And it was quite a clear day, but it was a bit overcast, and at first the sun was quite, like if you look straight out across the water towards Arran, it was you know, the sun was right in front of us. And this is, I'll just show you this. So Porton-Cross is just up from, god damn, Ardrossan. And from Ardrossan the ferries run across to Arran. So this is like the Isle of Arran. And just in front of the Isle of Arran, you've got this wee island called Holy Island. And then 30 odd miles down this way, you've got Ailsa Craig, which I'll be talking about in a minute. So the ferries that you see in the pictures are leaving from Ardrossan and heading over to Arran. I'll just head back to that. So that's them here, the Caledonia McBrain ferries. So you can see there's quite a bit of high contrast because of where the light's coming from and stuff like that. And that's Holy Island and Arran in the background there. So I say at first it was just snapshots and messing about with the camera and stuff like that. As I say, I've got nearly every photograph here, so you'll need to bear with me when I click through stuff. It hasn't been all trimmed down to the bare essentials. So then, this is the first photograph I think, you know, applies to the subject here. You know, I was just taking a random photo of the guy in the wee boat, but you can see a part of Arran in the background there, and you can kind of just make out that there's like the roofs of houses there that are, you know, only just visible. And this is like maybe two-thirds of the house that's visible here. So it was the first wee sign of the kind of thing that obviously you're maybe looking to get. And then looking up towards kind of northwards, I was just looking at these guys out in the boat and taking some random shots again. And while I was looking at these guys and taking random shots and this other boat that came out, eventually a petrol tanker came out. Now this is actually the first that's appeared. It's just over here. It's coming out for the port of Greenock. So once I spot it, you know, I start paying attention to it. And you can see it really well from this distance, and you can see the name at the time. Once I've took all these photographs and I was hooking up with Ged to look into it all and show it on his Hangout, was able to get tracking data on the ship, and so it was identified, and you could see its route leaving Greenock and going past the point where I was and heading out round Arran and out towards the sea. But that's all, and it's historical data now. I wouldn't be able to get it without paying for it. But I think one of the things that you need to pay attention to is how high above the water the boat is sitting, and what you can see. The colours, obviously, it's got a nice dividing line in the middle in the two different colours, so it makes it really easy when we're looking at later photographs to see how much is starting to disappear, even though it's really obvious anyway. So I just started following this boat for the most part as it headed out over the water. So you'll just see it at various stages as it heads out, different zoom levels and stuff. You can see, it's nice and clear. You can get all the detail on the boat. You can even practically see through the windows on the bridge and stuff like that. Just ignore that. So that's looking towards the Port Ardrossan that I was talking about. You can see one of the ferries in there. You can see some of the rocks in front of me. Just testing out the zoom. But it helps to identify, where you're located, that you can see this port. And this is this wee guy in the sailboat heading out. And as we flick through the photographs, we'll just get past all the crap here. God damn, where did it start? These are all crap. As I say, I haven't had time to filter out all the shite. Right, so this is what I was talking about. I was following the boat as it went past Holy Island and Arran, and at the point where it's over that way, the sun was right in front of the camera, so there's a lot of problems with exposure and contrast. But it was a clear day. You could still make out details. I mean, even with this, if you zoom in, you can see the white band across it and stuff like that. So it was actually quite good seeing conditions, and what was cool about it is no problems with refraction that day. And this becomes a lot more evident in the later photographs. Just flick past some of this. Actually, while I'm on this, and I'll be able to see it in other photographs, there was something I wanted to point out that relates to the claimed observations of the Isle of Man and Ireland and stuff like that, which is something that you'll see a lot in landscape photography. Is a thing that's called the chiaroscuro effect, and what that's to do with is the differences in contrast. And it's most noticeable when you get islands and hills and mountains and things like that, and they're all distances apart, and you'll see that depending on the distances between them, you'll get different shades basically between them, different contrast levels. And it's one of the ways of telling that you're looking at a further bit of land. And I think anybody looking at that Isle of Man stuff should pay attention to whether any of that's visible or present in the point where it's claimed that the one bit of land ends and the other starts. And you can just make out the boat there. So as I say, bit heavy contrast, but I'll still be able to see it and follow it. So I'll just flick through till it starts heading out towards and gets more visible again. Right, so now it's coming past Holy Island. You can just make out behind it, there's a lighthouse here on Holy Island. And I'll point that out on Google Earth in a minute. Again, you can already see at this level that you can't see as far up the hill as when it first started out. You can't really see the white line anymore and stuff like that. And just quickly, this is Holy Island here, and I've got a wee place marker for the lighthouse that it's just went past. Right, so that's the lighthouse there, just down near the bottom of the island. It's, you know, Google Earth. It doesn't hit. They've not got cars that have driven around there, so there's no 3D representation yet. It's just flat. So there's no point in zooming right in. It's just to give people a point of reference, basically. How he's getting on in the chat? Cool. Right, so just continue on. Now, this wee sailboat is really handy. You know, he's in the shots a lot, and it's quite good to have him as contrast against the tanker as it heads out across the water. We'll just flick through. As it starts to get further out and become more visible against the background, you know, more of it's disappearing, but you can still see it's really clear. There's no problems with any refraction in this state at all. Still clear enough that you can see through the windows and see all the wee details on the bridge and stuff like that, and it's like that all the way basically. So I'll just flick through some of these. So even again, as I say, what I was talking about a minute ago with this difference in contrast, you can even see it with the boats. You know, the difference in the distance between them, the light and contrast and stuff like that. You can, you know, it's obvious. So as it starts to get further and further, obviously more and more it starts to go, and one of the ferries starts to come out across the Mardrossan and head across. And of course the ferry is a bit closer. Wee bit of video here, just showing you where they are in relation to each other. There's the sailboat, and there's the tanker. It just goes fuzzy with this stupid zoom on the P900, so I'm not going to bother with that. So now that you know where they are in relation to each other, and the next wee bit will make a bit of sense anyway. Oops, another wee bit of video. Let's have a look. See, the way it jumps around, this is why I didn't bother showing the videos before, because it's really jumpy on the tripod, and even with the image stabilisation it sucks, so prefer the photographs. It's no bad. That's Ailsa Craig in the background. I'm just going to flick past that. So you can see again already, you know, most of the lower part of this tanker has disappeared now. It's mostly the upper deck that you're seeing, and it only gets worse and worse as it goes. And you can see the ferry getting closer, passing over in front of Ailsa Craig, past the sailboat. And you notice there's not as much of a difference in contrast between these two. So that's a good shot that I like, because it gets the two of them and shows you the contrast between the two of them before it actually crosses over the top of it. There's no reason why. I think the stats on this tanker were, it tells you the height to the top of the deck essentially, which was supposedly about 12 metres, but it doesn't include the bridge. So when you look at the original photographs, you can get around about 25 to 30 metres out of this thing. And look at the difference between the two, and the only difference in terms of what you're looking at there is the distance between them. And it gets closer, obviously it gets a lot more obvious what's going on. So this is personally one of my favourite shots. It shows you the literally all you can see of this boat now is the bridge, while another boat passes in front here, which is pretty much on the horizon. And again, everything is clear. It's hazy-ish, but what I mean by clear is there's no warping, there's no mirroring, there's nothing funny going on anywhere, not even right up to the edge of the water. Every wee detail, even the rails and things like that, you can still see through the windows. There's nothing. It's nice and clear. You can see everything fine. So there's no excuses for why this is hidden behind all this water and this boat, isn't it? So I don't know, I'd be interested to hear what the excuses are for this, because there isn't any atmospheric conditions to blame on it, basically. I'm sure there's some kind of excuse. So as it gets further out, it starts to, the way its path takes it, it starts to move over in front of Ailsa Craig, and it gets to the point where less and less it is visible. Actually, speaking of Ailsa Craig, I have to mention this. I just want to point out, for people who are confused, this is the proper profile of Ailsa Craig, because there's nothing strange going on with the atmosphere that day. And this is from about 31, just slightly under 32 miles away at the observation point. And you cannot see all of Ailsa Craig. And I'll show you why you can't see all of it. Ailsa Craig has a lighthouse on it. So this is it here, and I've got some information here on it. So this is the information on the height. So the focal height is 18 metres, and then there's some pictures just to give you some context with it and how it should look. Okay, so it's obviously well above the water. Interesting to note, by the way, while we're in here, range 20 miles. So anybody that thinks they can see the entirety of Ailsa Craig, when they can't see the lighthouse, and the lighthouse itself has only got a maximum range of 20 miles and no 30 or 40 or whatever miles, is definitely kidding themselves on. But I made a point of pointing this out when I was talking to Ged about it, when we were going through these photographs, that the lighthouse couldn't be seen on Ailsa Craig. But I moved to a higher elevation and you can see it. Again, you can see there's just nothing left of this boat apart from the bridge. And it's still clear enough, as I say. You can see lots of wee details in it. Really, you can still see the railings. You can still see the clarity in the windows and things like that, even with the bit of haze. So it's nice, clear shots. So this is a bit fuzzy, but again, this is just give you the profile of Ailsa Craig, how it should look, and that isn't all yet. You're not seeing all the way to the base yet. You should be seeing a lighthouse to this side. So it keeps moving on. It passes over in front of Ailsa Craig, or it appears to, just from the angle that we're at. And by the time it gets near that other side, again, so you can see the difference here between a tiny wee sailboat compared to a 30 metre high petrochemical tanker. All that's visible is the bridge, and it's lower in the water than this thing. You can see from following it all the way across the water, there's no change, weird, there's no big waves and things like that, there's no stupid excuses like that. And with the Ailsa Craig things, I say, you can see the profile out here, and it just stops dead, and there's no lighthouse, and there's no refraction and mirroring and anything like that to hide any of the bottom yet. So we'll skip through. So again, look at the comparison of they two. would like to hear the excuses for this. So eventually, obviously I stopped following it after so far. I think these photographs will stop soon. Aye. So that's really the last photograph. It's a bit fuzzy. Let's see. It's a bit fuzzy, but you can still see, like, there's literally just the top of the bridge visible. And then I moved to the higher elevation, and this is a photograph that was taken from up there. That's Holy Island, and that's Arran behind here. Just a bit better zoomed in. That's the wee lighthouse on Holy Island that I pointed out earlier on. A wider view, that's Ailsa Craig there, and you can actually just make out on the horizon there, that wee blob is, if I zoom in a bit you can sort of get the idea. So that's Ailsa Craig, and that's the oil tanker there that I was following. Right, that seems to be the last of the ones. And then I've got some from the higher elevation, I think. Let's see. Oops, seem to have messed up here. You need to give me a minute, guys. Something's weird. Oh no, there they are. It was weird that when they moved to the other photographs, but they're here. That's fine. Give me a second and I'll just locate the right bit. Right, we'll start from here, I think. So going from the higher elevation, obviously I located the boat and started zooming in it to see it, and you can see even from there that although you can't see the clarity of detail, you can see the whole shape of the thing compared to before. I'll just get past some of these. So again, now back to the Ailsa Craig thing. Now you see the difference in when you can actually see the full profile of the island, because now you can see the lighthouse at this side that I was pointing at a few minutes ago. So whereas before it was stopping, maybe I think it was around about here, the profile was roughly stopping about this high up, and all this stuff was covered. Now you can actually see what you should be able to see. And of course, if the earth was flat and you were doing it, you know, the water's flat and level, then from where I was standing originally, you should have been able to see that, but you couldn't. So people talking about this don't know what they're talking about. You know who you are. A wee bit of video there. Don't know if it's any good. No, I was just looking at that side of the island. Right, so back to the boat. I just kept taking, you know, photographs of it every so often, and then when there was stuff coming up over the water that was going to cross its path, I was kind of paying attention to it. Well, that's just a wide view to give it, again, a bit of context. Ailsa Craig over here. This boat that I was looking at a second ago, which is heading out into the water. And that wee blob there is the tanker. So just skip through it. So there you go, that's them in relation to each other. Again, it's hazy, but there's still no sign of any kind of distortion at all in any of this. And again, what I was talking about with the difference in contrast as well. Just something that's unavoidable. See, the video tends to suck. There's only a couple of these, you know, most of the observations were taken at a low level, so I just followed it until it was starting to disappear. And, oops, before I go that. even at the higher distance, as it's starting to get further away from me, you can see part of the lower part of the profile of the boat starting to kind of disappear again. And at this point it is, you know, a good something like 27 mile away or something like that, roughly. And it's heading over, it's going to pass by over in front of here. Just skip through it. So as it gets near the point where it's about to disappear, I kind of quickly put record on the video, but it's no anything, you know, it's just going to disappear behind the land. But as it does, again, you know, you can see, you're not seeing the entirety of the bottom of that boat as it's heading out through. You can see like the upper part of the deck, but no all yet. So, how are you getting on in the chat? Right, so that was Port and Cross. Get rid of that. Ah shit, I've just hit that by accident. Give me a second. VLC. Right. The next thing was looking down, up and down the River Clyde towards Greenock and stuff like that, which was a follow-up to Dell, you know, finally leaving his shed and doing an observation for himself, which, you know, wasn't the best observation. Shaky cam, Riley style, but there was a building that he claimed to be able to see all of, which everybody looked at and said you couldn't see all of it. And I kind of went to the same area and took similar photographs just to compare. But I took a picture of some of the features in the water and showed the water level and stuff like that. So there's a lot of these kind of things, I don't know the proper names for them, because there's some buoys and then there's these kind of permanent fixtures and I don't know the proper names for them, so if anybody knows they can educate me. But when the water level's down, you can see that the water level's down thanks to these things, and these also serve as good markers when you're looking up and down the river. So I took some random photographs from the different places I was standing. You can see, you know, if you pay attention to the shape of these and design of these things, they're handy reference points when you're looking back and forward. You can see how low the water is. It's, you know, you can see the water marks on these things, that it's exposed. There's better in a minute, but I'll just flick through these. So for location, here's the Erskine Bridge, and I'll just quickly show you guys where this is. Just get back out. So this is up this way. The first couple of photographs are taken down in a wee place called Bowling, which is nearer this end. And the Erskine Bridge, that's the bridge back here. So that's Bowling, where I took a couple of photographs first out in the river and the picture of the bridge. Then I moved up to Dumbarton Castle, which if I zoom in a bit you can get an idea how that's laid out. So you can obviously see the castle there, and I've parked up in this corner to get views across to Greenock and stuff like that from a distance. And then I moved up again, and the reason for doing that was to get better shots of the Greenock so you could properly identify the buildings and things like that. But when you're there, what I discovered was that you get quite a good place to get a view across this corner to the land in the background, and basically you're looking at, I think this is roughly about a 10-mile observation. Let me just double check that. 9.5 miles, and it's roughly split in half by the corner. So say it's like 4 or 5 miles to the corner and then 4 miles or whatever back here, that kind of way. And this makes for an interesting observation because it gives you some foreground stuff to see, and you can see the water level, and then the stuff behind it 4 or 5 miles away and how different it looks. But I'll get back to that in a minute anyway. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. So as I say, location wise, here's the Erskine Bridge. I'll just skip that. So this is moving up, and I just showed you the castle, so you should be able to see where, be able to identify where we're looking at there. Again, you've got the stuff out in the water, which helps for points of reference. And this is looking down towards Greenock. It's a wide shot, and you can see the water's littered with this stuff. And also, this is the building that was in question, which is the Greenock Waterfront Leisure Centre. So just various shots to kind of get the general idea of the layout. That's that building there. Now, one of the things that I pointed out when I was talking to Ged, and I think people should pay attention to when they're talking about all this angular size and how perspective works stuff, is there's things you just can't get around, and with all these wee things in the water, it helps to show it. And that is, it's unmistakable, even with, say from this point here over to the shore, it's vertically, in a two-dimensional sense, it's a very short space, but it doesn't defy the laws of perspective between here and up to the shore, how everything behaves. Each point along here, the objects, they reduce in angular size, and they appear to move to a higher point, so to speak, a higher line. If you do it as a horizontal line across the screen, they're moving higher up, higher up, higher up. They don't shrink behind invisible lines, and that's the way it should work. You should be able to see across the entire surface of the water to the shore, wherever you're looking, if water's completely flat and level, and anything on the water or in the water should obey those rules. But it tends not to be the case. Again, doesn't matter what ones you're looking at, it's the same thing, you can't get around it. So these here are the same type as this, and you can see that obviously stuff in between, it looks smaller, and the base of it is going to be at a higher level, although it might not rise above the height of this, because the actual size of the thing is such that its angular size will stop that from happening. You'll get, if you were to draw lines, it would be like a slight downward angle. So it might appear to rise up above items that are in the background, like the bank and the houses and stuff like that. But you pay attention to the rules it's following. As you look back, you'll see the same rules always apply. So this is the building that was supposedly fully visible in Dell's video, but it wasn't. Which can easily be checked on Soundly's channel. He did a blink test for it. Just skip past some of this. These are a bit fuzzy, but if this is taken, it's from Dumbarton Castle and it's still a reasonable distance away. Some right fuzzy photographs here, but when I move up, there's some better stuff. Right, so these warehouses are to the right of the building, and it's maybe worth paying attention to the fact this is like the bank here, and then the buildings, and you can see the base of the buildings and stuff like that. These are maybe worth paying attention to for something else I'm going to show in a minute. This building here is a cinema, a view cinema it's called, and you can see the roof and then the sides of the building and then the bank beneath it. Now this was just looking at, looking over the fence of the place where I was standing to show where the water level was. So it's low tide when I've done all this stuff. And then just another general establishing, zooming in. Again, so if anybody wants to repeat these, they know where to stand and where to look. This is looking back towards the Erskine Bridge from my point at Dumbarton Castle. And if I just flick through these, I thought that would have zoomed in, I'm not going to bother with that. again, this was as much about establishing exactly, you know, where you were standing and what could be seen. Tripod's a nightmare, but that's why I don't really like using these videos. End up fighting with the thing to get it to sit. Anyway, I think we'll skip that. So while I was at the castle, I walked up onto the ramparts. You can get up so far. Once you want to pay, you can go higher. To get a good view of the river and show how far the tide was out and stuff like that. So you can see here all of this area is completely exposed. You see the Erskine Bridge again in the background, and these features that I was talking about in the water, as I say, there are good ways of establishing the water level and location. With some zoomed in shots, you can see that the water level's down so far that these like lumps of concrete or whatever that are sitting on the riverbed are basically exposed. Practically the whole thing is exposed. And over in the background you can see all this grassland before you hit the tree line. And pay attention to these trees. So this stuff will be important in a wee minute when I go back to some of the other photographs. So just looking around and establishing, you know, what's there, what you can see, how low the water is, and how much can be seen in the background. Let me just go back to that. So this is a good one for showing just how low the water is, I think. I mean, you can see how much is exposed to the sand, and you see the rocks. You can see how high the water would maybe come up to this tower and stuff like that, and it's right down to the base. Same with these, they're fully exposed. And this is another example of the perspective thing that I was talking about, is this is how it should look. This is obviously at Morian angle, but that's how it should look. And you should be able to see all the way over. Just establishing where it was again. I'm just going to skip through some of this. So this will be from the last vantage point that I was pointing at. I do have some photographs establishing that, but I won't bother with that now. So again, this is just because I'd moved up, and just to prove that in the meantime the water hadn't come in. It was just a wee shot in the video showing that the water's still all the way out, just to demonstrate. And basically I'm about to walk through here and go over here so I can get a proper view. Oh, these sandpipers. So this was the final observation point, showing the tripod set up, how high it would be. And this house in the background's, you know, a place that you can be identified. I took photographs, I went over that side and I took photographs to show that as well, but you can see it in Google Earth. I'm not going to waste time looking at that now. So this is the general view from the camera point of view, and you can see the Greenock Leisure Centre there. So just looking around up and down to establish where I was and making sure that you can see the water level is still down. That's looking all the way up, right up basically. Just skip through some of this. So this is the building up closer. This is what you should see if it was all fully visible from whatever distance you're looking at. And you know, the point of contention was that when you actually look at what was originally captured on video from higher up the river or whatever, it was kind of, all this stuff was missing. As I say, that can be seen quickly on Soundleys. I'm not going to waste too much time looking at this leisure centre thing. That can all be checked later. As I say, it's mainly just to get it all recorded up on here, to show what can actually be seen, if you can see everything. Let's flick through. I'm just going to skip the videos. So as you start to move up past the leisure centre, you get to the corner I was talking about a minute ago, and because the water level's down, you get this concrete exposed, and this is what I was talking about in the background. You've got this place, if you look it up, it's called Kern, and you can see that, you know, you're not seeing all the way to the shore or whatever you want to call it. Now if I go over here, so you're actually looking at this kind of area. I went in, you know, back in the day sort of thing, I went in and I went down onto street level to identify it. So it's round about this area that you're looking. So you're kind of looking across the corner, and this is all the stuff that's missing. You should be able to see all this. So you're seeing the kind of, well, if I can find the right houses again, but you can get an idea of how, you know, the entire house and the road in front of it, and then working your way down onto the actual water level here. And then if you go back, you know, you're not seeing everything. So it's quite interesting to me because you can see that the water level's down, you can see the tide mark, you can see this is exposed in the corner, so you know the water level's low. I've established it plenty of times with other photographs. So this water level's right down, there's no refraction or anything like that happening, you know, there's no excuses, but you can't see everything behind that horizon line. Can you see the street? Can you see where the water stops? It's just looking across the water, and you can see again none of the road or anything like that is visible. And you know, just things in the foreground to compare to as well. This boat is a good wee example demonstrating that again. So obviously you can tell the boat is obviously floating on top of the water. We know the water level's down, and you can only see the roofs of these buildings in this part of the background. But later on, when I moved into the centre, I take more pictures of the boat, and you know, obviously it looks the way you would normally expect it to look. So again, this whole area, it's just all roofs of houses. You can't see any of the bottoms, you can't see any of the road or anything like that. Back to that corner again, so just establishing it again. So if you compare these two, it'd probably be good to composite these two together to get a wider shot. You can see the corner of the road there and where the water level is, and then moving it across here. So, you know, it's a bit a sharper photograph than the previous one. And these are things that are good to get. You know, if you can find somewhere where there's a corner and then there's something more distant behind the corner, it's a good way of getting a good frame of reference or seeing what you're missing. I'll skip through. It's mostly just repeats of this stuff while I was there. A bit of video just to show where it all is in relation to each other. And as you start coming back over this side, obviously everything starts to become visible the way it should be when it's closer to here. You can see that in the background, so it's still just roofs. And it starts to go out of focus, crappy B900. So let's just skip through. It's much the same. I think eventually I catch this wee boat going behind the other one. Aye. So again, it's just nice foreground elements to compare to what's missing in the background. You can see how these compare in size and, you know, working the way it should, obviously, in relation to each other. Yeah, these houses, all you can see is the peaks of the roofs. So looking back up the river again towards some of that stuff up the top, this is just re-establishing it from that distance. You can still see some of this land coming down into the water, and see the buoys floating and stuff like that. That was just to show where it was moving over the other side now and actually standing at the leisure centre. And I took some photographs of this stuff just to show up close, you know, the height. If you look at like a person compared to this and get a rough height on it, and you can see the water level and stuff like that. So that was just to establish again that even though I've driven down and then driven back round the other side, the water level's still low. So this is this boat standing at the leisure centre and looking at the boat. Hold on, just skip past this. You know, you can see how it should look with something in the background across the water from it. This is the way it should look, as we know. You should be able to see the water rising up, so to speak, to the point where it stops, and then see the road or whatever, then see the houses. That's the way it should always look. Oops. That was just showing where I was standing just up to the right of that house, as I pointed out earlier. This was the train station that you drive through that to get onto the bit where you have to walk through. So these were all shots just to demonstrate where I was, but I'm not going to waste too much time talking about that crap now. So again, this is a wide shot looking back up the river, and this is from the leisure centre side. You can see fairly far, a nice wide view, and there's a few of these buoys and stuff like that. And again, you can see that the rules of perspective don't get broken in what is visible in the foreground here. So every one of these that you can see each one that's further away, it's that wee bit smaller. You could draw a line and it would be slightly angled up from the base and slightly angled down from the top. Doesn't matter which one you're looking at, it's always the same. The rules always apply from what you can see there every time. And then you start zooming in, see if I can get a non-shaky frame. Fuck. I don't usually make that out, but if you pay attention to this green one over here, and the fact you can't see the base of this, you can't see the base of the tree line, you can't see the grassland that was underneath it or anything like that. Try to get it on its own a frame that isn't shaky. I think I've got photographs as well, but it would just be nice to be able to pause it. Yeah, that's no bad. So there you can see, this is where all of a suddenly the perspective thing stops working, is beyond the horizon line. And half of these trees, well, no half, but the lower half of the trees are missing. The base of this buoy isn't visible. You should be seeing a base like this floating on the water. You can see halfway up where the watermark is on this, you can't see the base of it, you can't see the exposed rocks that I pointed out earlier. Same with this thing, you can't even see the water line on it really, you can only see the top lighter green area. So these are all these ones here beyond the horizon are all low down instead of following the rule of perspective, which is what you should see if it was flat. Try and get it pause again, it's dead jumpy. Trying to get it stopped, but it's always a fuzzy frame, unfortunately. Anyways, get the idea. It's enough. I'll let the video run a wee second. I think it's just a lot of jumping around, it makes it harder to see, but there's enough there to see what I'm talking about. It's especially important, I think, when you're talking about a buoy, which is something that should obviously be floating on top of the water, and you can't see the base of it. And this is a river in low tide, which I established every time I moved. So the excuses I've heard, things like fucking swells and waves, it's all complete nonsense. Just randomly looking the other way, but the point was that you could see right up to the shoreline here, and again, same rules apply. You should be able to see the thing floating on top of the water. The top of it, due to the angular size thing, might stick up above the shoreline or an object on the shoreline, but you'll never get that. You can't have something that floats on top of the water sink below it unless something else is going on. So this is this boat out in the water. Again, as you can see, that's the way it should look. When when I was looking at the earlier observations and you could only see the roofs of houses, you should have been able to see everything. That's the way it should be. But that's not what we see. Right, some photographs of this stuff. They'll be a bit fuzzy. Let's see if I can find one of the better ones. The likes of this, it's no the best detail, but you can still see again what I was talking about. Whereas you can't see the base of the trees, you can't see the base of the buoy. That's the way it should be, where you can see the whole thing. And there's a perfect example how the perspective should work for the entire length of the river, but it only works so far, and then you got the horizon line, it's just cutting everything off. Again, a bit fuzzy, but you get the idea. You can also see the triangular peak of this one. I think that's getting near the end of it now, guys. Just the last few shots, it was just establishing where this thing was for everybody that wanted to know. So that was the view down the Clyde. Anybody still here? No, I'm not paying attention to the chat. Sorry guys, what's going on? Oh, hello, right, so apparently I'm being challenged to come on Nathan's. Actually, one of the reasons for doing this is to get a bunch of observations out there that are actually, well, frankly, worth looking at, because they're clear and they're, there's no atmospheric effects to blame on anything. I can clearly point out what I'm looking at, where I'm looking at it from, and all that kind of stuff, rather than looking at a hazy piece of, dodgy video and trying to claim you're seeing something that can't be seen and things like that. I want all this stuff to be up there. So I'm not finished yet. I've still got a couple to do. I want to get it all out there before I wrap this up. But anybody who's left to go to Nathan's, cheers for popping in anyway. How's it going, Soundly? You've come in at the one that you already know about more than anything. Maybe looks at it. Anyways, let's go to the next set. So the next week after that, I went through to Edinburgh and I hooked up with Ged, and the two of us went, and took a set of observations. He had his camera, I had mine, and they're pretty much identical observations, just with different cameras, a few feet apart from each other. So I'll go through some of this, but basically we took these observations from two elevations, and the first elevation, according to Google Earth, is 10 metres. I'll just quickly cut out of that and get over to Edinburgh to show that. Right. So this is where Ged and I went to take our observations, which is over at Leith, and the first place we stood was here. And if you kind of scroll around, you get some mixed results with the height a wee bit. It seems to be a sort of averaging about 5-6 metres according to Google, but it's hard to say how accurate it is. And then this is basically a wall there, so you had the height, whatever height it was up, and then the height of the wall, and then the tripod, which was obviously set up at its lowest point, but it was roughly kind of eye level, so it's never going to be any more than about 6 feet or whatever anyway from the road up. And then after we'd done the first set of observations, we climbed over the wall, walked over the rocks, and found a wee depression sort of area in the rocks down here. I don't think Street View is going to be any good for this, but if it does a 3D thing, it'll sort of give you an idea. You know, so we've come down to a lower point in the rocks. And took our observations now. Basically, looking out to a couple of different places. Let me just rotate that. So you'll see, once I start looking at the picture, you'll see I'll identify this island, which is about 3 miles away. There's a building that I got in the lower elevation observation, which unfortunately I didn't see from the higher elevation, which would have been good to have the comparison, but it's a good example of obstruction. And here, this wee patch here, there's a couple of gas rigs, which you'll see in the observations, and then there was some boats in the water, and over this way there's an island with a lighthouse on it, which I captured from the higher elevation, called Fidra. And you can just see, if I zoom in, you can see the lighthouse there. And when I moved to the lower elevation, I couldn't see any of it, I couldn't identify it, I couldn't find it again. And then for this one, there was a building. I looked over this way in general, and there was some buildings that were sitting below the level of the water, but there's a kind of stately home type place, which I get some nice observations from. And this is it here, Gosford House. Before I move away from Google Earth, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zoom into this now and kind of try and get an idea how it looks, so that when I'm looking at the photographs in a couple of minutes, it'll make some sense. What you should, what you ought to be able to see compared to what you're actually seeing in the photograph. So this is at road level. Obviously you've got water level and then a wee bit of grass, the road, and then I can't get inside here, but if you go past the gates, let's see, in the elevation, if you hover over it, according to Google Earth, rises up from about 4 or 5 meters up to about 12 meters. Excuse me. And then if you look up Gosford House, you'll get some photographs. Say that people have got pictures that are taken from like back here on the grounds and stuff like that, and you'll see just how big it is. I've got the photographs turned off on Google Earth just now, and I don't like it back on, no wanting to waste too much time. So these are the kind of some of the places to keep an eye out for in a minute when I look at the photographs. The one other place I just want to point out, since I'm in here, I might as well show it now. It's this building I was talking about, which you'll see from the lower elevation. It's this place, Cars. So what I'll do is just quickly click into here, get street view, so you can see what this looks like from the road. So it's like a flour mill, and it's quite a big building. And as well as the building itself, you've got all this stuff round about it. If I come back out a street view and just show you, so you've got a whole marina here, and there's various buildings here, and even one right out here that's like kind of almost in direct line of sight. So you've got this whole marina in front of the building, and the various sort of buildings round about it. And you'll see that when we look at it over the, with the obstruction going on, that you basically can't see any of this stuff. You can only see half the building. So let's get back to this. So from the higher elevation first, this is just a wide view looking from the top of the wall, as I say, but although you can see a lot of detail here, there's just enough that I can point out some basic stuff before we move to the proper photographs that are zoomed in. So you can see 2 boats here. These are the 2 blue boats that I'll point out in a minute, and this white blob here and the one just slightly fainter behind it, that's the 2 rigs. And then over on this side there's a boat here, which is it's the first thing you'll see a photograph of. And then in the background here you see this hill, which is like, as far as points in the landscape go, it's the most obvious place to see in the photographs, which I'll point out in a minute. And just so you know where that is, just quickly, just move it. You're looking up towards here, towards North Berwick. That's where you're looking at that hill. So I'll just go back to this. So it's just to identify a couple of points on the wide shot before I move to the other stuff that's zoomed in. So that's the boat out in the water. As I say, it's the first thing I took a photograph of, zoomed in, and you can see that I'm zoomed in enough that I can read the name of the boat, no problem at all. You can't see it all the way to the bottom, but it's obviously hard to say exactly how low the boat itself is sitting in the water from this point. Let's see, so this is Phaedra, the place I pointed out, the island with the lighthouse on it. And I looked up the information on Phaedra a while back. I don't have it to hand, but if I remember right, oh no, do you know what, I don't want to say it and get it wrong. I think it was it 34 metres? Do you know what, I think I'd be better looking it up. What's happening? Sorry, it's really hard to keep an eye on this chat and do what you're doing. Can you hear me okay just now? Is everything working? Hate this stuff. Can you guys hear me okay? Come on. Well, the only good thing is, if anything's going wrong with this just now, in theory I'm recording it as well, so if I look back on it and anything's missing, then I should hopefully have the recording as well. So if there's anything missing, I can always go back to it, I suppose. I know it's a bit of a slog, but I just want to get it all out there in one go, and then it's done. So let me just go back. Phaedra Lighthouse. Let me just go back to that. I was right, it was 34. Right, I seen it there popping up anyway, so I didn't want to say it and be wrong, but there it is there, the light source. So it's a 17 metre lighthouse, but its focal height is 34 metres, which is basically double. So if you go back to the picture, you know, so the height of the thing is 17 metres. So if you were to take that and flip it, you can tell obviously that you would never get that entire length of this to fit in that small space there. Something like half of the, you know, it's probably going to get maybe the base and the tower. So at an estimate, you're talking about maybe 8 or 9 metres or something like that is at least is missing from the base. And again, you can see that, you know, there's no gradual entry into the water here. It's just a hard water line, and then some of the base of the island's missing anyway. But it was a cool wee thing to find. Just a couple of photos of that. So this is in a, you know, a wide. Sorry, that's a video. So again, establishing from the wide shot and then zooming in, give you a better idea where it is. You can see it's just out to the left of where the headland appears to end. So that's Phaedra. And as I say, when I moved to the lower elevation, I couldn't find it again. So when I was looking that way, I was just looking along the landscape, looking to my right, sort of thing. And I mean, even this, you can't really see any end to the land. It's just getting cut off. But as I move along, this is the hill I was talking about, and it lets you know what you're looking at. There's some buildings. So you get this building, and you can obviously see the lower part of this building's missing. There's no road in front of it or anything like that. These are actually the buildings to the left of it, so if I do that, you can get a better view. So this is what's located there. And you can see how that one's getting cut off as it's lowered in towards the waterline. But video, it'll probably be fuzzy. P900's not the best, especially when you've not been using it and not got used to it. But I say, the tripod's really shaky. I've got a better tripod now though, so hopefully in future I won't have that problem. So that gives you an idea where that is. And you can just see at the end of that video there, the lens hood on Ged's camera. He's standing just to the right of me. So this is looking slightly to the left. You know, I pointed out some of the features on the water a minute ago. And again, this is more of a wide shot, but it lets us see. So that's the 2 rigs there, the 2 boats. Over this side there's another 2 boats. There's a wind turbine in the background. And then this is the island I pointed out, which is, I say, it's about 3 miles away. So that, again, the overall view from where we're standing looking over this bit. And then starting to zoom in. And even with this wide shot zoomed in, you can see already that this boat's looking lower in the water. And the same with these 2. It's unmistakable even from that zoom level that this one's kind of sunk compared to this one. And just zooming in, zooming in. Again, be able to identify the boat and see how much it is above the water and stuff like that with the boats, and then compare it to the other one. And you know, you can already see the difference between these 2. And then same again with a buoys, you know, same style as the ones that are on the river. You can obviously see something that's floating on top of the water level, but then you've got this turbine in the background. You can't see the proper base. You can't see any buildings round about it, any roads, anything like that. Moving over, you get this other boat, the Coral Petula. I'll zoom in a bit. Again, you can see how much it's out of the water, and then look at that compared to the roofs of these houses in the background, especially right next to it here. That's just the edge of that island that's a couple of miles away, just sticking out in front here. So you can see in terms of water level compared to, you know, everything that's visible. You've not really got excuses here for the water level changing. It's pretty consistent, and there's no obvious rises or big waves. It's all pretty uniform. And then getting the other boat in the background, again you can see the difference here. I've got a closer up shot of that. Oops. So this is how much of this boat is, and these are practically identical boats. I mean, you can't deny how much of that is missing. And if you compare that to what's in the background, you can almost see the base of this. Now you're obviously not seeing the entire base yet, but you can see down to the point where it changes, you can see some of the struts. So when you marry that up to what you're seeing with this boat, it's no logical to say that this level of water is, you know, the same all the way across, and this is where this starts. And you know, you know what I'm saying, it doesn't make sense. Obviously just taking better shots of stuff so you can get more detail on it. Again, you can see how these houses are so low and kind of half cut off compared to this boat, which is obviously floating pretty high in the water. Another wide shot, right? So I'll just click through till I get to some of the better. It's a wee bit of video there. Again, always helps to have a wee bit of stuff, a wee bit of video just to show in real time, so you can see that the water level, you know, is consistent. There's nothing crazy going on. There's no big crazy waves or anything like that. Oh, jumpy tripod. I'll just skip past that. And then this was just getting, you know, comparing the background to the foreground. As I say, these wee rocks which are only sticking a couple of feet up out of the water, and they're blocking that there, but then if you follow the actual water line, everything is just blocked behind it. A nice clear one, because the sun was coming out a bit better after, you know, we were standing there for a wee while. The sun came out from behind the clouds a wee bit, and it kind of lit these things up in the water a bit better, so you could see this stuff much clearer. Again, half of that boat is missing. And then over to the rigs. So you can see how much of this rig you can see. You can see part of this kind of grey area where it goes from black to grey, and you can see just the top part of where these crossbars start. That's the other one in shot. and you compare it if you move left and right and see how much you can see of this and where the crossbars are to this one, and the only difference is that one, it's like an identical platform, it's just further away, slightly further away, and it's obviously sitting lower in the water. I get better shots of that later though, so these are no the best shots of the rigs. That gives you the idea. I'll just flick through. That's a wee bit of a clearer one. You can get a better close up on it. So again, what I was saying, you can, you know, the crossbars, and I think the crossbars are important for anybody that wants to use excuses about mirages and things like that as well, because you can see through the depth of the rig and see the sets of bars, one behind the other, and you know, everything's the same. Just flick through and see what we've got. So this is obviously like looking somewhere closer, and you can see a better idea how you should be able to see down to the water line. I can't remember the exact point where that was located though, but this is what you should be able to see for everything. You should see whatever features are there, and then whatever it's sitting on, and then the water. So these are these other boats again, just slightly better pictures. You can see the difference with how much is visible. You can see the blue into the red with this. You can also see the blue with that one. And the rigs again. And you see what I was talking about, how they get lit up when the sun comes out and lights them up a bit better. You think I've got closer shots. Let me just double check. Aye, so this is the rig on the left, which is the closer one, and again you can see, you know, what I was talking about with the crossbars as a point of reference. And then if you look at the one to the right, which is further away, you kind of see that same point on the crossbars where they're starting to cross over into each other. It's missing. You can see part of this grey, but it's not as much. So if I just flick back, you know, there's a bit more, and you can see the crossbars where they're starting to join. That's just a clearer shot again, so it's unmistakable where these crossbars come together. And then with the other one, you can't see it. That's a better shot. That's a nice clear photograph. So I took several, obviously, photographs trying to get better shots of it all. So you need to bear with me on this because I'm trying to flick through everything. So this was the island that was closest to us, and I took a photograph of it while we were at the higher elevation just to kind of demonstrate how much of that was visible. It was only a couple of miles away, so that it could be compared when we moved the elevation. So zooming in at the base of it there, you can see how much of this you can see. And then when we moved in, you can actually see a wee change. So this is what, you know, obviously you can see everything there. It was just for comparison later. So I'll just flick through these. I just took various shots of the same things, obviously, to try and get as many photographs as possible with the same examples. Now this is another one I was talking about, like, same kind of thing as with the Greenock and looking up the Clydes, looking through a corner. So I'll zoom in on that. You can clearly see where the water level can come up to and how low down it is and stuff like that. But if you look through the corner to the land behind, it's just completely cut off. You can't see the base of that at all. You can't see it going into the water. That path just stops abruptly. It's just a hard line. And you can't see what's behind, you know, where that land goes. So anytime, you know, I can find something like that, and I suggest to anybody that's looking for examples of obstruction, this is a good thing to look for, is corners where you can look through one piece of land in the foreground to another piece of land in the background and get the water level in the foreground to compare. So this is obviously a fairly close point looking across the water, and it gives you a better idea of what you would maybe expect to see normally. You can obviously see the base of these, and that's what you would expect to see over any body of water if the earth was flat. But with the stuff that's further away, you never see that. Right, so that's all the low elevation stuff. Let me just quickly check the chat. because I know I'm kind of muttering away to my next. Aye, very good, Nim. I know they don't seem to understand simple stuff like that. Lower water means more height. Thanks for showing up, everybody, anyway, and you know, hope you're having a good new year and all that. I'll just crack on with this. So see, that was the higher elevation stuff from Leith, and then oops, I've closed it and I shouldn't have. Bugger, give me a second, guys. Right. So say we move to lower elevation. I'm just going to quickly show. I'll take a quick couple of photographs just to show the camera setup when we moved down onto the rocks to get the lower elevation shots. Just give me 2 seconds, guys. I need to pop away for a wee sec. Right, sorry about that. So that's Ged Stoning. This is like just when we first arrived at the place. We hadn't went to the wall yet. So anyway, aye. So this is at the lower elevation. This is how the cameras were set up. So this is my the P900 here, and Ged had, I can't remember the exact model, but it's like a Canon EOS or something, whatever. You know, I'm not sure exactly. That's his camera again. You can kind of obviously compare that to what I've just been shown. You can recognise the wee island, and just to make out the stuff I've been looking at, like the 2 rigs and the boats and stuff like that. So that was just to establish where the cameras actually were. And let me just get the lower elevation stuff. You can see the difference. So this is one of these photographs, you know, you just know people who are wanting to fight with you are going to claim that the camera's right on the water and you're looking at the waves right in front, blocking your view, but that's no, it's zoomed in and these waves are, you know, miles away. It's just the way it looks when it's focused on something like that, it's really zoomed in. And you see the massive difference in how much is visible over the waterline. And as I say, this is all taken from, you know, the cameras I just showed you. This is the views you're getting. So all this stuff's all blocked off. And then looking across to the stuff we've already been looking at, the boat, the 2 red boats, the one that had been fully visible, it now looks like the one that was partially visible, and the one that was partially visible has disappeared. And a nice clear shot of it. So you can see how much of a difference it's made, changing the elevation by about, you know, say 3 or 4 meters, but still above the water. And if I look over here, you can't see the base of this wind turbine at all anymore. Yeah, this is all you can see of this second boat here. The very, very top of the bridge. Obviously took a few different pictures of that. I mean, that's it. That's a whole boat hidden. And, you know, as I say, the water level is nice and uniform and consistent, and we're above the water, so a boat is obviously a lot taller than our cameras. So if it was a nice flat level surface all the way across, there's no reason why all this stuff should be hidden. Something much taller and higher than our wee cameras, it should be, you know, easily visible, but that's not what's happening. So just a few shots of this stuff. Again, you know, the hussies are buried there. You can all see the roofs and the top, maybe the top floor. The turbine, half it missing, almost up to the blade there. This is the blue boats. Again, pretty much submerged. And the only way, the only way you could fake this way, the water itself would literally have, for us to have moved right down to the, put the camera practically in the water. And this is the nearer of the 2 boats. You can see now, you can't see any of the, what you could see earlier, you could see the lower half, which was red and stuff like that. Now it looks like the one that at the back did look at the higher elevation. And then the rigs, obviously, same again, there's so much more missing here. You can't see any of the legs hardly on this. And this is the further away one, which you can see even less of. You're practically just seeing the platform and none of the legs, so just a wee gap there. So that's the difference the elevation's making, just a wee wide shot of the two boats there to compare. And let me just flick through a wee bit. So as I was saying a minute ago, I took a photo of the island from the higher elevation, even though it was right in front of us, just to compare the difference. And there was a wee bit of a difference. You can't quite see right down to the waterline now compared to the way it looked when we were at the higher elevation. So even at the 3 miles, it's made a bit of a difference to change elevation. And this is this corner again. Again, big difference here. You can't see any of the black, sort of darker rocks that were kind of sticking out and showing you the waterline. And you know, half of this hillside's missing in the background. This was the part of the area of the town where it was visible right down to the road, and you're not seeing any of that anymore. You can see again, so you know the trees just stop abruptly halfway up a tree. Same again. You know, it's unmistakable. I know what I say, people accuse you of having the camera too close to the water, or they'll come out with some crap about swells and waves, but that's just excuses they've got because they're not wanting to accept it and they're not there. Now, this is the building I was pointing out earlier. The Cars building, it's roughly about half of it is missing, and none of the features, the marina and all the buildings that were built around the marina are visible at all. You just can't see any of it. So there's a huge amount of stuff all missing right in front of this building, plus half of the bottom of the building itself. And you know, same again, looking along, you're getting just roofs sticking up above the water. And then I just took a few photos of that. I'm just going to skip through. Oh, a wee video. Let's see what I'll zoomed into. So this gives you a better idea of what you're seeing. You know, this is the wide angle looking over the water from that point where I pointed out where we got the camera set up. See, this is the problem with the P900. It doesn't maintain focus, but it gives you the idea. Then obviously I've kept it zoomed in and started the video again. And you see how it actually looks. And as I pointed out with the previous stuff down at Portland-Cross, it's the same thing with this stuff at Leith. There's no atmospheric effects, it's all very clear, there's good seeing conditions, there's no excuses for any of the blockaging happening, whether it, you know, at any elevation. Right. It's even clear enough that when I zoomed into that big turbine, even before I could go to it, I could tell because I recognised the logo, but you can practically read the word Samsung on the side of it. Okay, this was just random pictures of water I was taking for other stuff. Right, so again, here's the rigs side by side and better lit up with the sun. Sorry, let me just zoom in. So you can see a big difference there in what's visible. Say you could see right down to the point where the crossbars were just about to touch. You could see down, and you could see the kind of lower half of the legs with the grey on it. You can't see any of that anymore. And with this one, it's practically all hidden. It's just the platform. And it's that boat that I very first took a picture of. You can no longer see the base of it like you could in the original photographs. You can see almost just below the title there, so a difference in that as well. And then if I flick through and started looking towards the land up here again, shit, sorry guys. And you can really see how defined the water level in the land is, you know, the way it just cuts everything off at the base. You're not seeing the bottom of this stuff at all, but if I move along to where the buildings are, you can really see it. I'll just skip through this stuff, sorry. just get past this. I was taking lots of random shots, so you need to bear with me. Oh, back to the rigs. I'll just skip past some of this. You've already seen it, but again, just a wee reminder, just the difference in these boats. And you know, it's nice and sunny and clear. Everything's all lit up in the background. There's no mirroring, there's no weird stuff going on. I want to find you... See, there's what I was talking about. You know, you can make it very clearly that this is a Samsung. And you can't see that yellow base with the struts or anything like that. You can't see that other boat. That's all you're seeing here. Nice, really well focused shot, that, considering the distance. There's no disputing what you're looking at. Right. Again, buildings. Now, I'm going to skip through because there was stuff at the other side or the other direction I wanted you to see before it's the rest of the observations on this. There's more stuff below the waterline. Again, this is half buried. Yeah, that's the Gosford house that I was pointing out earlier on. As I say, you can go and look up pictures of it and get pictures of it taken from the grounds and stuff like that. And I showed it on Google Earth to show you how much should be in front of it. You know, there's it's an estate, so obviously there's a certain amount of ground in front of it before you get to the main house. Then the gates, then the road, and then from the road down to the water. So there's a lot of stuff missing on that one as well. It's just half a building, literally, you can see. Again, no problems with the atmosphere, it's all very clear. Same with the buildings. So this was quite a good place, you know, because you had 4 boats, an island with a lighthouse on it, several houses, a stately home or whatever it is, you know. There's all different places to look at on here. There's multiple observations in one, essentially. So that was all the stuff from lower elevation. And then to double up on that, Ged was with us, as I say, so he's got all his shots showing the same stuff from the same elevation points and that, different zoom levels, different camera, but the same basic thing. So it's all doubled up by Ged as well. So it was a really good place to get observations. I think it'd be worth going back there again. And we're down to the last set of stuff. One more, and then we can get this done. How are we getting on in chat? Hi, you talking about the fact that it was Anthony something on the ship? Right, so on the same weekend that I went through to meet up with Ged in Leith, that was the Sunday. I'm trying to get this the right way around. I think I went through on the Sunday and met up with Ged, but on the Saturday before, I actually went back to the River Clyde just for the sake of it, and I got a wee bit. It wasn't the best weather, it was raining and stuff like that, but it was enough to see a couple of things while I was there. But I was on the other side, so let me just show. It's all spun around. It's weird when it's like that. Give me a second. I'll just quickly show you. So the original set of stuff on the Clyde was done on this side, and had your 3 points of observation. Down at Bowling, and then Dumbarton Castle, and then up here at Cardross. But this one I'm talking about, I came across to the other side and came down here and looked up the river that way to see what I could see. And as I say, it wasn't great, but it just gave us a wee extra set of observations for that weekend. Now, this is right. So I'd been looking at these buildings earlier in the other observations, and if you compare what was visible to what you can see in the photograph, I'll just zoom in a bit. So this is part of the leisure centre. You can't really see it from this angle that I've taken it at. So there's other stuff in the way before it, so it's hard to see. This is the View Cinema that's on the same part of the complex, or whatever you want to call it, as this centre. It's like across the car park basically. And I'd been shown it in the earlier photographs that you could see, the roof, and then so much of the building, and then there's like some like grass mounds, and then the bank. But with this, you can't see all of that. You can't see half of these warehouses. Previously, you could see down to the base of them and see the bank and all that kind of stuff. So it's clear that the water line's cutting off kind of halfway up and just underneath the roof almost of this thing. Zooming in a wee bit. That's a wee bit of a better view of that. So I've heard excuses that it's, you know, no, the water that's cutting it off. Well, it's just a wee reminder. This is the water. There's no other, you know, the other stuff that's supposedly cutting it off and no the water. If the person who's saying it was right, you would be able to see that and see that cutting off the building. You can't see any of that because the water's cutting everything off. So, I say same with the warehouses, and you can compare this buoy sitting floating on top of the water to where it's sitting in relation to the building. While I was there, I happened to spot there was this ship that came out. I think it was like some kind of naval, I don't know, no very good with boats, so like I don't know if it's a frigate or whatever, but it was coming out and coming over the Clyde and moving along. Again, you can see that half of it is missing. You can only see the top half of it, yet you compare that to a buoy which is sitting on the water level. You know, this is just know what should happen, but that's what it is. So I took some photographs and video of it and followed it as it moved across the water, and as it got slightly, it was coming across at an angle, and as it was getting slightly closer to me, a wee bit more, it started to become visible. But I could never see the entire thing. I just followed it across, kept following it as it moved its way, and it, you know, that's the like the kind of maximum that you end up really seeing of this boat. You never see the base of it. That's just concentrating for a wee minute, showing that, you know, you're not seeing all these buildings. Just the peaks of the roofs there on that building. Now again, even though it was no the best day, and you know, because it was starting to rain and stuff like that, it was still clear and there wasn't any refraction. So it was good that way. It was a bit hazy, but it wasn't you know, it wasn't blocking your view, if you like. You can see everything clearly. You can see the houses. You can see whatever's visible in the boat. You can almost make it the, you know what I mean. You can even see the windows on the boat if you zoom in and stuff like that. A bit fuzzy, but you can see everything. There's no, you know, there's some clarity there. That it's no all fuzzy and missing bits or anything like that. Again, compare something that's sitting on the water level to the stuff in the background. Right, so I'll just flick through. As I say, just kept following the boat and making sure that, you know, you had these things in the foreground to compare it to. Obviously, the boat should be much bigger and higher on the water than a buoy, and then when you allow for perspective and angular size and stuff like that, the most you should be expecting to see if it was flat is that the boat would all be visible apart from a couple of feet at its base, and maybe the angular size would be such that it appears to be slightly smaller than this buoy or whatever, but the whole thing should be sitting on the water. Excuse me. Just follow across, let's see. So, you know, I just scanned around and took some pictures so you could see the buildings in the background and stuff like that over the horizon line. It's the same stuff that I was looking at from the previous observation, but a different angle, pretty much. And, you know, this whole section, if you'd seen the previous observations, you'd know there's a road running along there, and you should be able to see the whole bank running down from the road into the water, and none of that's visible. You see the corner of the you should be able to see the corner up the end, and you can't see it and stuff like that. So I just took a couple of photographs while I was there of the same sort of stuff, because I could notice that the warehouses were, you know, half missing and stuff like that. So it's just a few different photographs of the same thing there. But this building, the View Cinema, I thought was the most obvious and prominent thing apart from the boat, because, you know, it practically disappears after its roof. And then, oops, let me just close that down. I was showing all the pictures there, but I actually did take a quick bit of video to establish where I was, if it will run. And this will be the last thing, guys. I'm finally through to the end of it all. So that's me standing right down at the waterline with obviously the camera on the tripod, trying to look up through there, but I have a good look around to establish exactly where I am, and show, you know, the camera isn't right down in the water getting all submerged by waves. You can see obviously with something closer like Dumbarton Castle, which was where I was standing taking observations before, where the water level is and the fact that you can see right across it, no problem. You know, so there's no issue with the height of the camera or any bullshit excuse about big waves and stuff like that. And you know, any of the excuses I've heard basically for people trying to say that somehow the camera's sitting in such a way that the water would block its view and all this kind of crap. It's just at a normal height above the water, and if things were the way flat earthers said, you'd be able to see right through this bit to the land at the other side, the same way I could see the castle, and the same would apply to all of this stuff. Instead, everything beyond that point is buried below the water. So it's all, you know, everything close, you can see it the way you would expect to see it. Everything's beyond so many miles, you get to the horizon line and everything starts to sink below it, and that's just the way it is. Excuse me. Again, nice wee point to stop there to establish. See this thing? The water isn't right down low and exposing the very, very bottom of this, but you can see it's low, it isn't high up. For anybody that's any doubt about the water level, the tide was out and it was starting to come back in basically when I was taking these shots. So this is just the video establishes where I was and everything I was looking at from that point of view. The rough height of the camera above the water, which is basically just sitting at a normal sort of level on the tripod, so it was about 3 feet or so roughly above the water, and you can see the difference it makes just with distance. You can see there's no big changes in the water level, it's just all about the distance. I know it's very fuzzy and jumpy, but you get the idea. I think that's enough. I just wanted to get everything together into one stream. That was the wee video I took at one point of the boat while it was moving. I didn't just take photographs, but it's too jumpy and fuzzy, so I don't really like the videos on the old tripod, but the new tripod's vastly better. So in future I'm hoping to get out and do more of this stuff, and you know, hopefully have better video for everybody to see in the future as well as photographs. So I think that's us finally at the end. For anybody that did show up, thanks, I appreciate it. You know, I know it can be like watching paint dry, having to sit and just go through stuff like that and just say, here's a photograph, and go through a couple hundred photographs and you know, just talk about, I was standing here, I was standing there, I was looking at this. It's not the most exciting subject, but the main thing is to get all the observations out there. And as I say, the thing with all this stuff is, it's all, even if the fuzzier looking stuff at the end there is still clearer and you're able to identify stuff than a lot of the shit I'm seeing getting thrown around. And the Leith stuff is really especially clear, and there's so much stuff out in the water and beyond the water, on the landscape. So, you know, in that one observation, there's multiple observations, and it's all really nice and clear. It's a really nice day. And then the same applies to that port and cross as well, looking at and following the Ramira, the petrol tanker or oil chemical tanker, whatever it is, across through past Ailsa Craig. It's just clear all the way. There's no problems with the atmosphere at all, no excuses for anything, bending the light and hiding things or anything like that. And there's lots of foreground and background stuff to compare to each other. So they're good observations, I think, and got a bit more going on than what a lot of people try to push. So I just wanted to get all of that out in one big chunk, and now it's on my channel and not just on Ged's. So just before I wrap it up, just want to say again, thanks very much to Ged for, you know, agreeing to let me come on originally and go through all this stuff originally with him. And you know, it was good to meet up with him and do those observations and all that, and I hope he sticks to his wee plan to stay away from this, to be honest. But you know, it was good of him to get involved anyway. So That's us, guys. I'm going to quit out. Thanks very much. Cheers.